We go now to George Ball. He's chairman of the Sanders Morris Harris Group. It's a Houston-based investment banking firm which manages about $12 billion in client assets. He's also the former president and CEO of Prudential-Beige Securities. And George is in our Houston newsroom. He joins us from there today. George, you just heard our Brian Weiss talking about what's the latest is with regulatory reform. If we do get some sort of VOLCKER rule, if we do get this derivatives rule, what effect, if any, is it going to have on your firm?
Well, it won't have an effect on a firm like ours, Julie. Ours is a wealth management firm predominantly, and so our business is much more monoline than the large, diverse, universal banks. They, on the other hand, are going to be faced with, perhaps, a very difficult conundrum, which is which lines of business to shed, which ones to de-emphasize, and which ones might they be regulated out of entirely.
And what effect overall do you think this is going to have on the street in the end?
Well, I think in the final analysis, there'll be two main things that happen, Julie. First, the notion of a universal bank, I think, has been discredited to some considerable degree, not necessarily because of the mistakes made that have been well chronicled in the cable news and in books, but because it's so difficult to manage a financial service company that's in every different product, every different client base, every different part of the globe, and no matter how smart you are, I don't think that anyone is capable of understanding the interconnections of all of the risks and manifestations. And so you may end up with a narrower Wall Street, where firms are much more specialized, which is perhaps a throwback to the days of my youth.
Well, and I was going to say, in terms of being the head of a company that has a lot of different tendrils, so to speak, and a lot of different businesses, this maybe goes back to your time at Prudential-Beige as well. Now, your firm, we should point out, did settle with authorities related to allegations of misstatements about various products. This issue obviously has not gone away. During the financial crisis, there was talk about this. There were allegations about this related to Goldman Sachs. How do you think, or do you think, that regulation can address that problem specifically?
It's a fascinating conundrum, Julie. I guess the French phrase is the more things change, the more they stay the same. Regulation, unfortunately, cannot educate. We can talk about education, and at the end of the day, teaching both companies and consumers to diversify is the right answer. It's the thing that you want people to do, but again, that's idealized. That's if everybody has full knowledge. One of the things in the bill that is not being done as concretely as I think Wall Street would like, although that seems counterintuitive, is to specify whether it's the suitability standard of a broker-dealer or the fiduciary standard of a fee-based manager that's going to apply to the stockbrokers and to the brokerage firms and to the investment banks across the country. The bill, as it's now constituted, sets up a study group, and I think much of Wall Street would like to have that question clarified fairly soon, because it's quite pertinent to help companies to avoid mistakes or to magnify, to help keeping them from magnifying mistakes.
George, I mentioned Goldman Sachs in passing, obviously under a lot of scrutiny in this environment, though not directly related to the regulatory reform we've been talking about. Again, going back to your history as the leader of a firm, there have been some calls more recently, bank analyst Dick Beauvais among them, that Lloyd Blankfein needs to be removed or needs to resign as head of Goldman because he should have been more aware of what was going on or was aware. What's your feeling on that? I think it's very difficult for people who are in the financial service business to be as public relations aware as is being asked these days. I've been in a very modest version of the same situation as Lloyd Blankfein, and it's difficult because, in again, a huge company like Goldman Sachs, if there are isolated instances where people go to excess,
not with any malevolent motive, not with any chicanery in their heart, but things that get done wrong. I mean, I think Goldman Sachs has, what, 56,000 employees, and you don't know what all of them are doing. And certainly from that which has been said up to now, the mistakes at Goldman were ones of judgment, not ones of ill motive. So I think trying to sacrifice Lloyd Blankfein because there were mistakes in assessing investments would be a poor act.
George, we're out of time. Thank you so much for your time, though. Appreciate it. George Ball, once again, chairman of Sanders Morse Harris.